A couple weeks ago, my friend came to me with $1 million question. It's a question that I've continued to think about up until now. I'm still thinking about it. And his question was essentially, how can you get yourself to a place where you're recording the podcast episodes in the week that you're releasing them? Now, he's been brought along throughout this process, and like prior to launch, he knew that I had bulk produced like 10 different episodes in preparation for the podcast to launch. And he poses this question, and it's so interesting to me because I think going into releasing this podcast, I was like, okay, I need to have a bank of 10 different episodes at least. I mean, my goal was 12 episodes, but as I was recording those 10, I started to run out of stories to tell. I'm like, there's nothing else to talk about. Like I've covered it all. And, I got to a point in that production process of like, okay, I just need to let life play out a little bit. And so I have these 10 episodes, right? And so what my friend was pushing me on is like, you want this to be an ongoing weekly show, but if you're bulk recording episodes way far in advance, like 2 months in advance, and then you're going to release them 2 months after the fact of you being in that mental state of whatever you're talking about in the episode, and it creates a sort of disconnect, right? It doesn't allow the viewer to be right there with me in whatever I'm going through. And I've been thinking about like, why is that? Why am I leaning on that? And, I think there's a couple parts to it, right? So there's the first part, which is I feel like I need to have a sort of safety net to build and not feel anxious every single week in like, oh my God, what am I going to talk about this week? Because what I'm trying to solve for in everything in my life is reducing anxiety and reducing anxiety so that I can maintain clear skin. Because if there's anything in my life that is causing such high anxiety levels that is causing my skin to break out, like that's where nothing becomes worth it anymore. Like whatever the thing is that's causing anxiety, causing my skin to break out, that thing no longer becomes worth it. And, I never want that to happen with this podcast of this is my playground. I think of it as like the light or the eye of the storm. It's like peaceful, it's safe, and I want to be able to approach every single episode with that energy, right? So I've been thinking about this because, yes, there's that piece of wanting to feel so ahead of the game to where I don't have to be worried about what am I going to post the next week. But then there's this other piece of why do I want such a large gap between when I record versus when I release? And this really goes back to this whole idea of Secret Garden, how I am Secret Garden. Like my code name is Secret Garden. And I think there's a part of me where it's like by recording an episode 2 months in advance, it's almost like putting a guard up. It really is like putting a guard up between like what I'm feeling in a current moment versus when it actually goes out into the world. So in a way, it's like, I think a part of me wanted that gap in order to separate myself from whatever I was feeling when telling that story. If I even think about this year feels so intense the energy feels so intense. It feels like it's hard to catch your breath. It's like, oh my God, what's happening? And this is almost like even more of a reason to not pre-record things. To me, it's almost like the energy of this year is everything is changing so fast and every moment feels so intense. And it's like we need support in this exact moment. My self from 2 months ago isn't necessarily going to resonate with my current self, right? Because the energy of this year is changing so fast and there's a lot of shedding that's happening. And so I think it's going to offer such richer storytelling, richer experiences of us just being together in Secret Garden if I'm talking about something that's happening to me in the week that I'm releasing the episode. So as I've been thinking about that and as my friend posed that question, I'm like, fuck it. Do I just not release any of the episodes that I've already recorded? It's almost like it was reminding me of, I don't know if you've watched Project Runway, where there's always like at least one person in each episode where they're like, for the entire challenge, they're going down this path of a certain design and it's like not really working, or like they think it's working and then they go to sleep one night and they come back the next day and they're like, oh my God, I have to redo everything. And so they start over at the very last minute. And then it ends up being like the winner of the challenge. It ends up being like the thing that they're known for, that they go on to just be so proud of. And that's the same feeling I have about this, where it's like, let's just say fuck it, let's freestyle and let's have fun. You know, I've also been thinking about this too, in this sense of, if this is an ongoing weekly show, right? And I want to continue to pour energy weekly in real time and sort of freestyling it and saying fuck all the plans that I've been working on the past several months. One of the things that's been inspiring me is being around a lot of newborns. So for the most part, my closest friends are new moms. And for the past couple years, I've had a front row seat to the process of birthing something into the world and having to pour your entire life force into that thing. And every single day, it's a new day. Everyone's kind of learning about each other. Everyone's getting to know each other. What do you need? How do we coexist in this world? And, you know, I've been just in witnessing my friends be new parents. It's just this constant outpouring of their life force into this being. And it's like, with all that they have, they're pouring all that they have into the day, into this human being, this newborn baby, and they're just trying to figure things out. And I think, in my mind, I think that's so inspiring, and I want to relate it to this podcast, because as I think about doing a weekly show and doing a weekly show in a way where I'm recording in the same week that I'm releasing, it does have to be this thing of like pouring my life force into the thing. Like, that's what I'm focused on getting to, where it's like, with all that I have in that particular week, I'm pouring it into the episode. To be so clear, the story that you're about to hear is a story that I filmed a month or so ago. And if you're watching on video, you're probably wondering, like, Allie, why are you wearing the same outfit? I'm still trying to figure out how to do this whole video thing. And this is just me learning on the fly and me trying to figure out how to tell the stories that I want to tell in a way where it feels like it's real time. This intro that I'm doing right now is in real time. I'm recording it in the week that I'm releasing it. So over time, I think you'll start to see that I'll just start doing freestyling things more often. But there are particular episodes that I do have recorded that transcend time for me. Like, these are stories that I just want out in the world, and stories that my younger self would have deeply enjoyed hearing. Now, this really leads into the story that I have to share for you today, because I think we have such a rigid view of how things should look, or we go into a certain thing of like, oh, we have this master plan and everything is laid out and we have this idea of what we want it to look like, and then it doesn't look like that, but it looks even better. And with this week being Valentine's Day week, tomorrow's Valentine's Day, I think there's a lot of expectation that comes with Valentine's Day. To me, that same amount of expectation, if not more expectation than Valentine's Day, was felt on my 30th birthday. As somebody who's been single for a long time, I've spent most Valentine's Days single. And, I personally feel the weight of societal expectation a lot around this day. And, over the years, I've really tried to think through, how can I reorient myself around celebrating myself? How can I turn it inward? How can I, show myself extra love and care on a day like Valentine's Day where there's so much expectation around it? So what I want to talk about today is how can we celebrate ourselves when we're, working within the context of expectation. And maybe it's a holiday that feels like it has a lot of weight of expectation on it, or maybe it's a birthday, or maybe it's like, fill in the blank for whatever kind of resonates most with you. So in this episode, I'm going to be sharing my experience and how I've navigated through like really figuring out how to celebrate myself when there's so much expectation around certain days. And my hope for you is to kind of hear my experience and use it as kind of food for thought when applying it to your own life. So it doesn't have to be a direct application, but I'm more so just focused on sharing this story to help you brainstorm. How can you celebrate yourself, particularly in times when there's so much expectation around the day or the week or the month, fill in the blank. And for me, I think the best example I have of this was around my 30th birthday. So in the same way that on Valentine's Day, it's like, oh, there's all this expectation to have a partner and do something fun on Valentine's Day and like spend quality time together, etc. I really felt a lot of those same sort of hopes or expectations for my 30th birthday. Now, leading up to the birthday, I'm like, okay, I'm going to manifest my ideal 30th birthday trip. And so I started by making a list of like exactly what I wanted. So first thing on the list was I wanted to be with a partner, or next best thing, I wanted to be with a group of girlfriends. Now, I wrote that down and I'm like, okay, but I really just wanted to be with a partner. The next one was like, okay, I want to spend a good chunk of money on myself, but I am not trying to break the bank. So I want it to feel affordable to me. The next one was like, I wanted to feel a sense of awe, and I wanted to feel held in the experience. The next point on the list was, okay, I want this to feel nourishing and awe inspiring. Also, I want it to be planned well in advance. I didn't want to kind of be up against the clock, like planning up until the last minute. I just wanted everything to be figured out ahead of time. So I wasn't stressing out about like, oh my God, am I going to have like the ideal day for my 30th birthday? And then the final point on the list was I wanted the birthday trip to be on or around my birthday. So I wrote down this list, and I'm really, I've been practicing manifestation. I've been using To Be Magnetic, and I've been a Pathway member there. It's their yearly membership, and really part of, their whole manifestation process is like you have to uncover all the subconscious limiting beliefs that are standing in your way of like creating your dream life. And so there's this specific process that you follow as you're trying to manifest certain things. And they talk about like the trifecta needing to be in motion. So you need to be unblocked enough. So clearing away like all the extra layers of like subconscious limiting beliefs that aren't serving you. You need to be expanded enough to where, you can see to believe what's possible for yourself, and having examples around you of people who have done the thing that you want to do so that you could really just see to believe that it's possible. And then the third thing in the trifecta is taking aligned action. And it's like doing the thing that you've wanted to do. It's planning the thing, it's booking the flights, it's, reaching out to the person that you're feeling called to reach out to. So all of those things have to be in motion in order for you to manifest. So it was probably like a few months before my birthday where I wrote this list. And, I probably sat with that list for a week or two, and I'm like, hold on. Another thing with manifestation is like you can't force the timelines of things. And particularly when it has to do with somebody who's like not you. You can't like force the timelines of anything. And so I was staring at that first bullet point on my list of like, I wanted this trip to be with a partner. And I'm like, okay, I can't force the timelines of this. Also, even if I were to find a partner at that point, like it would have been like a few months into the relationship, and like, would I have really wanted to go on a trip with somebody that new? Probably not. So I was like, okay, hold on. Let me reevaluate here. The next best thing was going to my group of girlfriends and asking if anyone wants to go on a trip. So I wanted to keep it to my super close friends though, because I think, as somebody who is a part of a much larger group of friends, I think the more people you can invite on a trip, the more drama there is, the more opinions there are. And I really just, again, my whole focus of this trip was to make it about, me feeling nourished, me feeling inspired, me feeling held, me feeling celebrated. And so the best way I knew how to do that was just to keep it to my closest friends. And so I texted them, and they all responded with, they can't make it. And for a very good reason. Like, being a new mom is a great reason. Being pregnant is a great reason. Having to deal with grief and different family dynamics that needed their attention in that moment. All fantastic reasons of why they couldn't go. But in that moment, I mean, I felt all sorts of feelings coming up because I'm like, on the one hand, it was like grief coming up around just feeling like, you know, I've gone to all of their celebrations. Granted, those celebrations had been weddings, bachelorette parties, bridal showers, baby showers, and I think so much grief was coming up because it's like, in a way, like one part of me felt like, okay, well, I've attended all of your celebrations, and now when I'm wanting to celebrate myself, like no one's around. And I really had to sit with that and, feel all the feelings around that. And, I say that just to give context. Like I like fully understood why they couldn't come. And I if I were in their positions, I likely wouldn't have been able to go either. It forced me to really face the truth of like, okay, what is the worst case scenario in all of this? Or like, what am I truly needing to face as the worst case scenario so that I can figure out how to navigate and make it so that I don't end up in my worst case scenario, if that makes sense. So when I really sat and thought about what the worst case scenario was, it was that I would be alone with nowhere to go on my 30th birthday and stuck in my apartment and not having any plans and not having anyone around me that helps me feel seen, heard, and celebrated. Like really at the root of it was that the number one thing that I desired with this 30th birthday trip was that I just wanted to feel seen, heard, and celebrated for my 30th birthday. And, that's why I went to those closest friends and asked them to go on the trip. There are people in my life who really make me feel seen, heard, and celebrated. And so that was why I went to them. But now that I had a clearer understanding of like, okay, I know that I just want to feel seen, heard, and celebrated. So what are other ways what are other ways in which I could get that same experience? And so I started thinking about, I think I made a list of like different places I could go because I knew I wanted to go somewhere. I knew I wanted to travel and get on a plane and go somewhere. So I started making a list and I was like, okay, for whatever reason at the time, I was seeing things about Lake Tahoe everywhere. I was like, why is everyone bringing up Tahoe as a topic? So I wrote that on the list. The next thing was, I started thinking about different events that I could go to or like different communities that I could immerse myself in and connect with like-minded people as a way to feel seen, heard, and celebrated. And, what came to mind was this To Be Magnetic community, this manifestation community that I had been a part of, at that point over 3 years. I'm still a part of it today. And so, I started thinking about that. And then I was like, hold on, wait a minute. They have a speaking tour going on. Like they have live events right now. And oh, by the way, like a couple of days after my birthday, they're going to be doing a speaking tour event in LA. And so as soon as I wrote that down, I was like, okay, I think this is a great option. And I think I wrote it down and then kind of let a couple days pass. And I kept kind of thinking about it of just like, I think that would be so much fun. And it feels so exciting, and it would allow me to immerse myself in this community that I've been a part of. It would allow me to surround myself with very like-minded people and people who would absolutely just like blow my mind. with the kinds of things that they're up to, the kinds of things that they've been able to manifest and bring into their lives. And so I was like, as soon as I got that clarity and felt really good about that, I was like, okay, I'm going. So I bought a ticket to the speaking tour. I booked my flight, and I was able to get a deal on the flights. I remember them being like significantly cheaper than flights I've bought to LA before. And so it all felt affordable. And then, the event was in downtown LA, and I know that's not really like the place to stay, but I was like, whatever. I just want to make it easiest on myself. There's a hell of a lot of traffic in LA. Like, let me just figure out a place to stay in downtown LA. And I really had no idea where to start. And hindsight is definitely 2020. But I remember one night I was like randomly watching a music video of Tate McRae, or it was like a video of one of her performances. And she was performing in the Moxie Hotel in downtown LA. And I was watching that music video and I was like, that's the hotel I'm going to stay at. Now, hindsight is 2020. I mean, a hotel where they have live musical performances is probably not the best hotel for me to stay in. I mean, it was loud. My room ended up being like over the pool, and there was a DJ until like 2 or 3 a.m. Like, it was just wild. But it felt, I don't know, it just felt good to me at the time to select that hotel. And so I got everything sort of figured out well in advance. So checking that box, right after I wrote my list though, and I really put a stake in the ground of like, yes, I will be celebrating myself for my 30th birthday. No one is going to stop me. Even if no one can attend, I'm still going to go and I'm still going to have the time of my life. As soon as I put that stake in the ground, just energetically, and like as soon as I felt it in my bones, the very next day, I log onto my computer for work and I get a message saying, oh, we want to plan for the whole team to travel to Cincinnati, Ohio, the entire week of my birthday, and including on my birthday. And I freaked out because, at the time I was like, oh, I'm being tested so much by the universe, because it's like, okay, here I just put a stake in the ground saying no matter what, I'm going on this 30th birthday trip. And then less than 24 hours later, I'm now being tested of like, are you sure you want to go on that 30th birthday trip? Are you sure you feel like you deserve to celebrate yourself? Are you sure? Are you sure? And what I was feeling, I think the root sort of belief that I was feeling in all of that was like, well, okay, my needs don't matter. And also this situation was pushing me to voice my needs. No one on my team knew that it was my birthday, let alone my 30th birthday, let alone my golden birthday, because I was born on the 30th day of the month. But, no one knew that. And so the first step I took was like, okay, let me inform people that 1, it's my 30th birthday. 2, I'm going on a trip. 3, I'm taking time off. 4, I cannot travel in the days that they're planning on having everyone travel. And I just laid it all out on the table. And I think that was one of the first times where I really gave a big no in this job. And I was just like, I have to draw the line. Like, I have shit to do. I have to celebrate myself. I don't have time for work. And So everyone was super receptive to that. And I think that whole situation was just pushing me to step into this whole my needs matter, my voice matters. And I was doing a lot of like subconscious reprogramming work around those wounds and those limiting beliefs. It was all through the To Be Magnetic online workshops where I was using those tools to kind of help me navigate through this sticky situation. You know, once I stated my needs, we were able to figure out a schedule where I traveled like Monday through Wednesday. I got back on Wednesday. I had a dinner with my girlfriends in town on Wednesday night. Thursday was my actual birthday, and I had that day off. I just relaxed. I didn't do anything. I think I went to a workout class. I had great food. I saw family. I went to dinner with family. And then the next day, I flew out. So that Friday, I flew out, and the speaking tour event was on Saturday. And so the timing was so weird. I was like, as soon as I got to the hotel, I was like, I just need to sleep. And there was like, again, like I said, my room was over a pool and the DJ was playing, and I was just hearing like the boom, 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 boom. Like I was hearing the bass, but I was like, I'm so tired. I just need to go to bed. So the next morning I wake up super early because I'm still on Eastern time. But, you know, as I'm on this trip, I'm still kind of orienting myself around like, okay, how can I celebrate myself? How can I, you know, really immerse myself in experiences where I feel seen, heard, and celebrated? And I woke up so freaking early on that Saturday, and I was like, oh my God, like I need to find something to do because the speaking tour event isn't until like 3 p.m. and I'm up at like 5 a.m. You know, I need to find something to do. So there's a whole online community group with To Be Magnetic, and it's just an app where everyone's in there. And so I had been kind of watching like, how did the New York event go and how were people interacting in the app? And I could tell that I was really just getting expanded by and seeing that there were so many people who were going solo to these events. And I was seeing like these incredible stories of people meeting like their accountability buddies. Like a big thing with this work is having an accountability buddy to kind of help each other along. And I was just seeing all these beautiful stories and also stories of people going solo and then meeting up with a group of gals and then going to dinner after. And I'm just like, okay, there's something here. There's people to hang out with. I know there's a bunch of people traveling solo to this event. And so I woke up that morning. I was like sitting on my hotel bed thinking like, oh my God, what am I going to do with my time? So I posted a message in the community group and I was like, hey, I woke up so freaking early. I have nothing to do today. Does anyone want to hang out? And one person responded, and she called me and she was like, hey, I'm available. I was thinking about doing this, and this. Would you want to join? Or does this sound good to you? Or, you know, she was calling to check in. And I kind of love that she called because it was like, okay, you can tell a little bit about a person by their voice. You can tell, you can kind of gauge their energy and like kind of what they're about by their voice and the tone of their voice and in the energy that they emit. So she called. We talked for a few minutes and we agreed to meet at the top of Griffith Observatory because we were going to do hiking and then just go from there. So I get dressed, I get an Uber. I'm in my Uber and the Uber driver like starts questioning me on, oh, like who are you going to meet up with and what are you doing? And I'm like, yeah, I'm going to meet up with a friend. Like, I know exactly who this person is. And I'm just like trying to dodge these questions from the Uber driver because I'm just like, I really have no idea who the fuck I'm going to meet, but I know that they're associated with his community group and therefore they feel like a safe person. Um, so anyways, like I was able to like vaguely answer the Uber driver's questions, but I get to the top of Griffith Observatory. I get out of the car. She's not there yet. And I just, a couple minutes later, she came up. And so we meet and we started hiking. And we probably hiked for maybe an hour and a half to 2 hours. And it was just the most beautiful view. We really like clicked. We were talking about things that we wouldn't normally talk about with people. We were just like diving deep into the work of To Be Magnetic. And I think it was really, really helpful that we both had spent roughly the same amount of time with To Be Magnetic. I think that at that point we had both been doing it for a little over 3 years. We were at similar points of just like the types of things we want to manifest were very similar. And everything about it just felt so nourishing. And towards the end of our hike, we were also looking at the time, being like, okay, we still have a lot of time left. And so we decided to go to Erewhon, and it just became such a wonderful day of adventure. We went from Griffith Observatory, we went to Erewhon. I got the most insane custom breakfast burrito at Erewhon. It was like $35. I highly recommend. So we ate lunch at Erewhon, and then we kind of went our separate ways to go back and change in time for the speaking tour event. And so then we meet up at the speaking tour event, and going into it, I'm like so excited because I just couldn't wait to soak up the energy of all these people in person. And we're doing the same work. We want extraordinary things in our lives. And so I just remember it was in this smaller theater, and we walk in and find our seats, and it's just like the most magical place. Like people were walking in and I'm like, "Oh my God, you're like sparkling." Your energy is sparkling. And I just loved it so much. And so the speaking tour event itself was like, I don't know, maybe an hour and a half. But then you could stay after and mingle and talk to different people. And so we stayed after, and me and my newfound friend, we stayed after thinking like, okay, like let's try and find a group of girls to get together to go to dinner with. And so that was our mission, really. But we stayed after, we talked to the speakers, we mingled with other people who were there as, guests of people in the audience. And we just got so many incredible stories. I mean, we were talking to incredible people. We ended up staying like maybe 2 hours after the event was already over, just mingling and talking to people, and really just, I think the most wonderful parts of all of the conversations I had was like, I felt like I could just bring my authentic self. I felt like I was heard. I felt like I was seen. I felt like people understood where I was coming from. And, having it be in an environment like that where it's like going into it, that people can hold what you have to say. I think just for me personally, it set me up to really feel like I can open up quicker. I could let my guard down quicker and allow my authentic self to shine. And it also helped that, I was around people who were so clearly like living in their authentic self. And so we're still mingling, and my new friend and I were still trying to figure out, like, okay, where's our dinner crew? Like, we're trying to find a dinner crew. And the longer we stay, we sort of like seed the idea with different people, and we're both kind of mingling separately and together. And, you know, ultimately, no one wanted to go to dinner. And so there we were. It was just the two of us, and we were like, well, we could still go to dinner. So we ended up going to like a random place. It was not a well thought out place. It was in some sort of like mall at the bottom floor. I'm like, this is not really where we should be eating when we're in LA, but here we are. Like, we're really just here for the company. And so I yeah, that dinner ended up being incredible because literally it was a full day of us hanging out. Like, I still talk to her on a day-to-day basis, and like it was almost like a platonic meet cute of just like, you meet early in the morning and then you spend the entire day together. And we had dinner at like 8 p.m. And so there we were, like sitting at dinner and just kind of reminiscing on the day, and really just kind of sharing the fact that we both felt so comfortable with each other and were so invested in doing this to be magnetic work. And we both need accountability buddies. And so actually at the end of the dinner, I remember we were walking out, and my newfound friend says to me, you know, I remember she was like, I feel so safe with you. Like, I love talking about this work with you. I would love to be accountability buddies if you're interested. And I was like, yeah, absolutely. Like, I want an accountability buddy. I would love to have one. And I would love to have my accountability buddy be you. And as soon as I remember getting back to my hotel that night and just sort of like laughing to myself, because there I was, like in the beginning of wanting to plan this 30th birthday trip, back when I created that list of like everything I wanted. The first point on my list was like to go on this trip with a partner. And I can't help but laugh because the universe works in such magical, mysterious ways, because in the end, one, I did find a partner, but it was an accountability buddy for the to be magnetic manifestation work that I'm doing. And it's in the form of a female friendship. But I did feel so seen, held, heard, supported during the trip of just spending time with her. And so I was still experiencing all the feelings that I wanted to feel when I was like, oh, this has to be with a partner, like a romantic partner. But really, like, I still was able to get my needs met through this totally different, unexpected avenue. An accountability buddy was something that I had been wanting, but it almost felt in a lot of ways of like a nice to have. Like, oh, I don't really need that because I'm still going to do, I'm still going to remain regimented about my manifestation work. I'm still going to keep to my routine, but having somebody to bounce ideas off of related to this to be magnetic work and this manifestation work, that I think I underestimated how impactful that could be. And even within like the 24 hours of us hanging out, I could really feel like this is something that is really going to help me. And so, I think what I learned from that was, it ended up being the most incredible trip, and I met the most incredible people, and my mind was blown in so many different ways. It totally met the bullet point I put on my list of like it being nourishing and awe-inspiring. Like, awe-inspiring is not a word I use often, and I think it's really hard to create that feeling at times, but this was absolutely awe-inspiring. And so this trip ended up being everything that I wanted it to be. It just looked so different than my initial kind of rigid view of what the trip should be. But even just thinking about, like, had my closest friends said yes to going on a trip, we would not have gone to LA. We would not have gone to the speaking tour event because they don't do this To Be Magnetic work. And I wouldn't have wanted to bring them there because they just wouldn't have understood it. It would have been like a foreign language to them. And so, you know, I think it's just a testament to how everything always works itself out. And what I learned is that no matter what, I can find a way to celebrate myself. And it's all about just getting to the root of, okay, what do you really want to feel? How can you let go of this rigid view that you want to have or you're clinging on to because you feel like that's aligning with the expectations that society, your family, your friends put on you? How can you just really boil it down to the root of what you want to feel? And then from there, you could start to brainstorm different ways of like how you can bring that into your life. So maybe this week, with it being around Valentine's Day, and you're feeling like all these different expectations of like what you want to have happen, really just think about the root feeling that you want to feel. Like, what are you really desiring out of this? Do you want to feel seen? Do you want to feel heard? Do you want to feel adored? Do you want to feel celebrated? Like, get really clear on that and then start to think about the different ways that you can feel those same feelings. Like, what are different experiences that you could have that you can create for yourself, that you can identify different environments where you can put yourself in, where you can feel these feelings? Really think about that. And how can you like step into different spaces where you're celebrating yourself and spending money on yourself? And that was one of the greatest things about this trip too, was like, for the first time in my life, I was really spending my money on a trip that was everything that I wanted to do. Every single thing. And I loved it so much. I mean, yeah, I've traveled a hell of a lot throughout my life, but you know, in my 20s, it was all for other people. It was to celebrate other people. It was, you know, to do XYZ with a big group, and everyone has different expectations for the trip and everyone wants to do something different. And, you know, it meant so much to me to be able to pull my resources in and use them to celebrate myself. And so I really hope that this gives you inspiration, permission to just do something this week to celebrate yourself. And that doesn't have to be on as grand of a scale as going on a trip. I mean, you can certainly like use this week to plan a trip. But also think about other ways, like how do you really feel like you can celebrate yourself? Another way I do this has been, you know, through workout classes and through going to solid core. It's like strength training mixed with Pilates. The more I do that, and the more I kind of up level within their class structure of going from like beginner to intermediate to advanced, like I just feel such a sense of accomplishment and celebration of what my body can do. And, you know, I just recently hit my 50 class mark, which puts me in the advanced level of, and by that, it just means you're working with heavier weight, heavier springs, more tension on the springs. And it's making the classes really freaking hard. But I've been feeling that much more of a sense of accomplishment walking out of class and just in awe of like what my body can do. And, you know, it's things like that. It can also come in the form of like making a really wonderful meal for yourself. Or, I've also been really into like luxurious sleepwear or like fabrics that feel quality and buttery and just feel so good on the skin. It's how can you really sink into like the different sensory things around you? How can you really sink in and celebrate your body? How can you really just celebrate where you are in life and all the things that you do for yourself every single day to take care of yourself? So I hope you take this as inspiration to celebrate yourself. If all this talk about To Be Magnetic has piqued your interest and you're wondering kind of what this membership is all about, what this online community is about, I have a discount code that I'll include in the description below for 15% off your membership. Again, I'm not a member of the TBM team. I am just a passionate member, and I've really seen this work in my own life. It's brought so much magic. It's brought friendships. It's brought a job. It's brought clear skin. It's brought me so many different things. It's brought me a new apartment. Like, I've been able to manifest so many things in my life, and I'm only continuing on that journey. And so if that's at all interesting to you, I highly recommend checking it out, and I'll include the discount code in the description below. Celebrate yourself this week, or make plans to celebrate yourself here in the near future. I am here celebrating you. Don't worry about all the expectations that surround any day, really. Just lean into who you are, what feels best to you, what do you want to really feel, and start to create those experiences where you can get those feelings and needs met.